You know that sinking feeling when you check your bank account on a random Tuesday afternoon and realize you have less money than you thought. Not because you went on some crazy shopping spree, but just because of life. The electric bill hit. Your car needed an oil change. You grabbed lunch out a few times, and suddenly your paycheck from 2 weeks ago has vanished into thin air. You sit there wondering where it all went, feeling like no matter how hard you work, you are always one unexpected expense away from financial panic. If that sounds familiar, what I am about to share might be the most important thing you hear all year. Because the system that has been quietly draining your wallet is about to get a whole lot more aggressive. I am Bob, and I've spent years obsessing over how money really works. Not the fairy tales they teach in school, but the actual mechanics of how the financial system operates, and why so many hardworking people feel like they're running on a hamster wheel. I share strategies that actually work for regular folks dealing with real financial pressure. If you are tired of feeling broke despite having a job, stick around because I am going to show you what is happening behind the curtain. And hey, if you find this valuable, don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button. It helps more people discover this information when they need it most. So what am I talking about when I say they're about to reset your money? Here is the concept I need you to understand, and I call it the silent devaluation cycle. Every single day, the purchasing power of the money sitting in your bank account is being systematically reduced through a combination of inflation, hidden fees, and monetary policy decisions you never voted on. But here is what most people miss. This isn't just background noise anymore. We're entering a phase where central banks and governments are actively restructuring how money works. From digital currency rollouts to negative interest rate experiments to bailouts that dilute the value of every dollar you've saved. The reset isn't coming. It is already happening. And if you don't understand how to position yourself, you'll wake up 5 years from now wondering why everything costs twice as much, but your savings barely moved. Let me make this real with some examples. Think about Sarah, a marketing coordinator making $55,000 a year. She is doing everything right according to conventional wisdom. She has $3,000 in her savings account, earning 0.5% interest annually. That is $15 a year. Meanwhile, real inflation, not the cooked government numbers, but actual cost increases for food, housing, and healthcare, is running at about 7 to 8%. That means her $3,000 loses roughly $225 of purchasing power every single year. In 5 years, even though her account still says $3,000, it only buys what $2,200 would have bought when she started. She didn't spend it. The system just quietly took it through devaluation. Now compare that to her coworker James, who took that same $3,000 and put $1,500 into a Roth IRA invested in a basic index fund, averaging 8% returns, and used the other $1,500 to pay off his credit card that was charging him 19% interest. 5 years later, his invested portion grew to about $2,200, and he saved over $700 in interest payments he would have made on that card. Same starting point, completely different outcome, simply because he understood the game being played. Here is another one that hits close to home for a lot of people. Consider the family that keeps $20,000 in their checking account. Because it makes them feel secure to see that cushion. They think they're being responsible, but their bank is paying them essentially zero interest while simultaneously lending that money out at 4 to 7% for auto loans and mortgages. Over 10 years, the opportunity cost of keeping that money in a zero-interest checking account instead of even a high-yield savings account at 4% is nearly $9,000. That is a used car. That is a year of groceries. That is gone. Not because they spent it, but because they didn't understand that cash sitting idle is cash being devalued. The bank made money on their money while they got nothing and actually lost purchasing power. And this gets even more interesting when you look at how the reset accelerates during economic crises. Remember 2008 or 2020? When things got shaky, governments printed trillions of dollars to stabilize the system. Where did that money go? Mostly to banks, corporations, and asset holders. If you own stocks or real estate, your assets inflated in value. If you only had cash savings, you got diluted. Your slice of the economic pie got smaller even though the number in your account stayed the same. A person with $100,000 in savings in 2020 has watched that purchasing power drop by 15 to 20% in just 3 years, while someone who had that $100,000 in a diversified portfolio of stocks and real estate saw their net worth increase by 30 to 50%. Same time period, same economy, radically different results based purely on understanding how the money reset works. Now I know what some of you are thinking. Bob, I don't have thousands of dollars lying around to invest. I am living paycheck to paycheck. How does any of this help me? And that is a completely fair question. Here is what you need to understand. The reset doesn't care about your current financial situation. It affects everyone, but it punishes those who don't adapt the hardest. If you are living paycheck to paycheck with no buffer, you are the most vulnerable when your purchasing power drops because you have zero margin for error. But here is the good news. Protecting yourself doesn't require being rich. It requires being smart about the money you do have, even if it is just $50 or $100 a month. The other objection I hear constantly is this: the market is too risky right now. What if I invest and everything crashes? Look, I get it. Volatility is scary, but here is what is scarier: the guaranteed loss of purchasing power from doing nothing. Yes, markets go up and down, but over any 10 or 20-year period, diversified investments have consistently outpaced inflation. Cash has consistently lost to inflation. You are not choosing between risk and safety. You are choosing between the uncertainty of market fluctuations and the certainty of monetary devaluation. One gives you a fighting chance. The other guarantees you fall behind. And if you are young and have decades ahead of you, time is your greatest asset for weathering those fluctuations. So what do you actually do about this? Let me give you 5 concrete steps you can start today, regardless of where you are starting from. First, open a high-yield savings account immediately. I am talking about the online banks paying 3.5 to 4.5% interest right now instead of the 0.01% your traditional bank offers. This takes maybe 20 minutes to set up. Move whatever emergency fund you have into this account. If you have $2,000 sitting in a regular checking account earning nothing, moving it to a high-yield account earning 4% puts an extra $80 a year in your pocket for doing absolutely nothing, except clicking a few buttons. That is free money you are leaving on the table. Second, automate your wealth protection. Set up automatic transfers the day after your paycheck hits, even if it is just $50 a month into a Roth IRA or index fund. You won't miss what you don't see, and that automation removes the willpower equation. $50 a month at an 8% average return over 30 years becomes almost $75,000. That same $50 stuffed under your mattress or sitting in a zero-interest account becomes $18,000 with purchasing power equivalent to maybe $12,000 in today's dollars after inflation. Automation plus compound growth equals protection from the reset. Third, eliminate high-interest debt like it is a financial emergency, because it is. Any money you are paying above 7 or 8% interest, especially credit cards at 15 to 25%, is actively destroying your wealth faster than almost anything else. The reset makes this worse because as your purchasing power drops, that debt becomes proportionally harder to pay off. If you have $1,000 in credit card debt at 20% interest and you are only making minimum payments, you'll pay over $2,000 total and take years to clear it. That is $2,000 that could have been working for you. That instead worked against you. Fourth, start acquiring assets that hold value against currency devaluation. Now, I am not saying go buy gold bars or Bitcoin. I am talking about practical things. Invest in skills that increase your earning power. Take that online course that could help you get a promotion or switch careers. That is an asset. Your ability to earn more is the best hedge against inflation. If everything costs more but you are still making the same salary, you are sinking. If your income grows with or faster than inflation, you are protected. Also consider starting a small retirement account. If your job offers matching, that is literally free money, and one of the few remaining advantages regular workers have in this system. Fifth, educate yourself continuously about how money actually works. Spend 30 minutes a week reading about personal finance, monetary policy, or economic trends. Knowledge is the ultimate protection because the system relies on your ignorance. The more you understand about how inflation works, how interest rates affect your life, how tax-advantaged accounts can shelter your money, the more tools you have to protect yourself. This isn't optional anymore. Financial literacy is survival literacy in an era of monetary reset. Here is the bottom line. The money reset isn't some conspiracy theory or distant future event. It is the ongoing reality of how modern monetary systems function. Your dollars are being systematically devalued to manage government debt, stimulate economies, and bail out failing institutions. You didn't create this system and you can't stop it, but you absolutely can protect yourself from it. The difference between people who build wealth and people who work hard their whole lives but stay broke often isn't income. It is understanding these dynamics and acting accordingly. Every day you wait to adapt is another day the silent devaluation cycle chips away at your financial foundation. But every small action you take compounds in your favor. Open that high-yield account today. Set up that automatic transfer tomorrow. Pick one piece of high-interest debt to attack this month. These aren't dramatic moves, but they're the difference between being a victim of the reset and being positioned to weather it. If this opened your eyes to something you hadn't considered before, do me a favor. Hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next video, where I break down exactly which accounts and investment vehicles make sense for different income levels, and share this with someone who needs to hear it because the system counts on people not understanding this stuff. The more of us who wake up to how the game actually works, the better chance we all have. You've got this. The reset is real, but so is your ability to adapt and protect what you've worked for. Let's get after it.